Kim. Oh, there you go. I had to wait till the recording in progress message ended. So now I can say thank you, Kim. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I do have just a couple very quick slides to go through, and then I'm going to shift right into demonstration. You'll see me, I have some notes. Oh, boy, they disappear in my background. Well, there you go. I have some notes. So you might see me looking down occasionally to make sure I hit all the topics we would like to cover today. So we'll spend 30 to 45 minutes, somewhere in there, going through the first part of this, and then we'll open you up for questions. As Kim mentioned, we will go ahead and run a little long today. If you guys have to jump off at 11, we absolutely understand. But we'll Kim and I, at least, are committed to you guys until 11:30 today. This is our first user group. We didn't do one in November because we were in hypercare. And let me talk about hypercare just real quick. That is an all hands DPS initiative. There are certainly exceptions based on what's happening here at DPS, but in the grand scheme of things, every staff member here in the division is supporting EVA and has been since November 1st. I don't want to throw people into a panic, particularly here at DPS. You guys are fine that I'm talking to, but hypercare is likely going to extend into January a little bit. And why is that important? We're starting to see, which is great, a lot of enhancement requests. Love the enhancement requests. You know, that's really awesome stuff. You know, we love that you guys are starting to kind of dig in, and when you find enhancements, you're finding areas that you'd like to improve to make your experience better. While we're in hypercare, our real focus is emergencies, things that are completely stopping business processing. And, you know, that is really, that's a major focus when we're in hypercare. So just some things to keep in mind. Doesn't mean we're not going to do these enhancement requests. You know, get them in, get them scheduled, prioritize them, all that good stuff. The good news is this isn't for our partner and for our team and my team and our teams here at DPS. This isn't a situation where we implement, we take care of you for a few months, and then we leave and don't do anything. We have modeled this project. We call it continuous improvement. This is a long-term contract. It's a 10-year initial term with our partner in CGI, and we do regular releases and enhancements and fixes. That's just part of what we do, and it's a continuous improvement type project. So please, for those of you, we love the enhancement requests, but patience will be a virtue here as we continue our hypercare support, certainly into January, before we really start scheduling enhancement type stuff. So just kind of a PSA, public service announcement there to start us out. So let me dig in. And like I said, these slides are really quick today. I'm going to do EVA updates and demonstrations as part of our agenda, and then we're going to take your questions. All right. And let's go through very quickly some of the things I'm going to touch on, and then I'm going to show you, well, not show you because I'm in presentation mode, but Kim not only is recording this session for us, thank you, Kim, but she will then also make available the PowerPoint presentation, the video recording, and then any questions we wouldn't happen to get to or whatever, she downloads the Q&A, and it's like in an Excel format, and then we can go in and answer those questions as well. And we post all that publicly on the EVA homepage in the buyer user group area. This PowerPoint will have my notes in it too, if that helps. So the PowerPoint doesn't have a lot of specific detail in it, but some of the notes, some of the things I covered, you may be able to pull, and it's in the notes section of the PowerPoint. So you'll be able to pull those notes if you're rewatching the video and wanting to look at something, and you can kind of also look at the notes I had. So I buried that in the notes section of, and not bury is a bad word. That means like I got rid of it. I've included that in the notes section of the PowerPoint. So continuing on, this is what we're going to kind of look at today. Purchase order delivery, self-registered versus state entered and non-registered, and kind of go over a lot of things. around purchase order delivery, look at supplier status on requisitions. There's been some improvements there, and then kind of dig into the supplier area and some key things around purchase order delivery. So these all tie together. UAT portal color. I'm going to switch between environments so you guys can see that. We're going to talk receiving and returns and some concepts around that. I know that's for those of you that use receiving. You guys have had a lot of fun with that. And I've got some good news in that regard as well, with some guidance, thanks to our lead who helped us with transition training, and our requisition ordering and receipts lead, Sarah Lewis. Some good news to share when I hit that one. We're going to talk about the messaging feature in EVA and let you guys kind of see that and discuss that. We're also going to talk about Quick Quote and some things around that, and then sourcing, particularly the publish and send feature around sourcing. So Quick Quote and sourcing are tied together. Subcontract payment reporting and the pain and suffering for those of you that do contract administration that we put on you at the end of last week. Number one, sorry about that, but we'll talk about some solutioning and some cleanup that we did very quickly about that. We'll just talk real quickly, reinforcing our training. I know our schedule to do instructor-led training should be coming out very soon for, January, February, kind of the 2023 schedule. And if we have time, a new feature that's in there. Some of you guys have clicked on this and maybe by mistake and been fooling with it, but blanket purchase orders. But that's all. I'm going to make sure we're good on time as when we get to that last one there. Certainly we can do blanket purchase orders in January. You should see a more regularly scheduled user groups coming up as well. Again, we skipped November just because of how crazy and the go live and everybody, including me, were involved in working tickets and helping people get live when the new system, the new EVA platform came up on its feet. So, but you should see a more regularly scheduled user group. I would imagine for the first couple of months, we'll go monthly. And then as our release schedule and our enhancements start to get scheduled, and depending on what our steady state looks like, we may go back to bi-monthly user groups again. So we'll just see. But for the foreseeable future, January, February, March, I would expect monthly user groups here going forward. So we'll be excited to ring in the new year with you guys. The last slide here on this PowerPoint, what I talked about, more detailed notes. It's just a reminder on this slide, when Kim publicly posts the slide presentation, these notes, I've put them in there electronically, the notes I'm working from today. So you'll be able to go into the notes section and extract those if that helps you understand what we're doing today. And again, kind of a walkthrough that if I was real fancy, I would have put timings on everything. But at the 15-minute mark, Shane discussed this, but I'm not that, since kind of doing this live, not that slick on that. And then again, after I go through all this stuff, we will take some questions. So I'm going to stop sharing very quickly. Oh, I see Lisa's joined. Hi, Lisa. Reminder to our panelists to jump in if you need to add any perspective as I begin to do the actual demo portion of this. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to reshare my screen, and everybody should now see this is production. This is EVA production with my little welcome to EVA. And just Kim, am I good? Or Lisa or Barb or anybody can?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Just want to make sure I'm sharing. All right, so let's dig in here. Going through our agenda that I just ran through, I want to do order delivery. One of the things I saw a note come up, and hopefully it'll answer a question. Somebody said they wanted a PO search from the main screen, from the home screen. Well, it's right here. I'm going to do a PO, and hang on, I got to put my glasses on. There we go. 041661. And you'll notice that you get requisitions, orders, you can do searches right off this main screen. So just to show that, I saw that come in as one of the questions. But that search is kind of a global search there. You can search for suppliers, recs, POs, receipts, sourcing projects, anything like that. I was very specific in what I keyed in here. The first thing that comes up is the requisition, and then the direct hit on that order is right here. So talking about order delivery, let me go ahead and click into this order here. Talking about order delivery specifically, and here is, I am in a purchase order itself. Let me talk through some of my notes, and then I'll go through and show you some things. So for a self-registered supplier, and we'll look at that in a minute, how do I determine a supplier is self-registered, things like that. There's a couple ways we can do that. For a self-registered supplier, a notification is sent to the contact if selected. Now you'll notice for this supplier, RE Replacement Parts, and I'm not picking on anybody at A216, not picking on, oh, it's JMU. Not picking on JMU. It's just a good order for me to look at. You guys are awesome. Love JMU. Go Dukes. It's just one when I was fooling around looking for examples yesterday. It was a nice, clean order. But you'll notice this supplier, RE Replacement Parts, no contact was selected. That's absolutely fine. If a contact is selected, they will get an order notification. The other area that an order is delivered to is to the ordering address contact email. I'll show you that in a minute. All right. And a big reminder for all of our suppliers, and we have sent some notifications to the suppliers, we've done some communicating, but they get a notice of the order and they actually get a PDF copy of the order on the notice, which is great. However, if you have added attachments that your external attachments that you're sending to the supplier, or if you've done a P-card order. Now, in this case, this is not a P-card order. There's no PCO here. It's just a regular open invoice order where they're going to invoice James Madison for this. But if there was a P-card, the supplier has to log in to obtain attachments and get their P-card. Requester, in this case, our buyer contact is Chris Dove. So Chris Dove would have gotten an email notice that his order, now we had a little issue a week or two ago where those went away, but we brought all that back. They get an email notice that the order was successfully generated. The requester now, if any of the notification contacts failed for the supplier, they'll get a notice that there was a notification failure. I'll get into these in a minute, but for state entered or a non-registered supplier, so not self-registered, there's a PO print roll that will fire. Still, and some of your self-registered suppliers, even though they're getting the notice, if they're self-registered, there could be a PO print roll if the self-registered supplier registered as print, that would fire. So if you, when you're doing your rec, a PO print fires up and you get that PO print roll, somebody gets pulled in, either you or somebody gets pulled in, that there is a purchase order print, you need to make sure you're doing that delivery. And then certainly for state entered and ad hoc. So let's look at this real quick. So I've got this PO, it looks good. It's, it's in ordered status. I did the hover over. You should see where it says ordered on the hover over here. It's a nice long description. Good for Chris getting that nice long description in there for me. It's in ordered status. Everything looks good. So where are some areas that I can check and make sure everything went through? So one of them is right on the purchase order itself. Make sure you're in the purchase order. You can scroll down and there's a history of PO sent right here. And on, which was yesterday, December 12th at 10:52 a.m., Robin Boyd, sales@repartsinc.com, got an email sent to them. Okay. So I know that this vendor, that is the ordering email contact. And I'll show you how I know that here in just a minute. All right. So that is a good thing. Robin Boyd got a notice. The other area you can check for notices, if you go into the workflow of the PO, you can scroll down. There is a mail history. You can check here and you'll notice that Chris Dove also got a message. He's the requester, and that is the successful message. Now you can actually click here on the subject. It pops up a window, and this is where you get the Chris Dove, please note that you have a new order. So this is a successful one. Yay. You know,
that didn't pop up.
The pop-up didn't come up. All right, well, you're gonna have to trust
imagine, use your imagination with that.
Yeah, use your imagination. Sorry, the pop-ups must not be working. So I will keep that in mind. Ooh, but how am I going to share?
Shane could see it. We could not see it.
Yeah, but there's an area I want you to see when I go to look at this order. So
and while you're here, Shane, there's
yes.
just 2 quick questions that we could probably knock out. One was, and both are with the resolution. So on this example, how did you get the bill to be moved below the ship to? So it's resolution, and then how did you get the whole screen on your monitor without the scroll over?
Well, I have a gigantic monitor.
Yeah, so it has to do, and I just wanted to address both of those.
And
questions.
You could also go up here, and I could, I could shrink.
So there was no real magic trick.
No, there's no real magic there. I have a huge monitor, and you could zoom. I don't know if you can see me zooming or not. But you can do Zoom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So here, Kim, stay unmuted for a minute, because one of the areas I wanted to go. So on this PO right here, you see the PO supplier, you see this little link? So you can click on that, but the problem is I don't think you're going to see the pop-up.
Nope, it's scrolling, like it's thinking, and it
Can
did.
You see it?
Yep, it's popped up.
Oh, you can see it.
Yep, we are good.
All right. So that is a direct link into the supplier account. So I'll do it again on the PO. You can also do this on the rec. When you see a link, you click on the PO supplier. So if you notice a problem, like you don't see those good messages, or remember, I told you, if we have a failure, we're going to send the requester, you had a problem, the email based, you had a delivery issue. So I can come in here, and this gives me a view of the supplier. Right now, I have more options than you do because I've got some vendor support privileges. You're just going to see a view of this. But if you go to first area, go to addresses, and then on the ordering address, now if this is clicked, just uncheck it, so you can see it. If you scroll down, that is the ordering address, Robin Boyd. You want that's a valid, or you want to make sure that's a valid email. You won't see replace or new. Remember, I have some vendor support privileges where I can edit data and put new things in. You won't see that, but it'll give you a fighting chance. If you come in here and this email doesn't look good, or it says none, like they didn't provide an email, then you got a problem. All right. And then hopefully you can use your other addresses. Maybe the physical address has information. Like, notice that's a different email. In this case, we're good to go. This was a nice clean order, but this gives you a fighting chance, to maybe get in and see some other addresses. If you see a check mark, you can unclick it.
And something just to add here, that view that Shane was sharing, that is what it looks like for the suppliers also.
Correct.
So if they are needing to update their
view.
Information, they would be able to go in and they would have that edit data as their box, and that's how they would update or complete that contact. And we are communicating about that to people that we identify have issues or missing the information, bad information. So those communications are being queued up to go out, but just so you know what the view is associated with the supplier side.
And Kim brings up a great point, though. We are communicating, right? We're reaching out to suppliers. We're telling them this information, but guys, suppliers get a lot of emails. You guys get a lot of emails. When do they care? When they have an order, right? You guys can make a difference here. We need your help here. This is one of the areas you can get in and figure out what's going on. The other thing you can check, if you click on contacts. Now, This supplier, you'll notice, had 2 contacts. Chris Dubb did not select a contact on his rec or on his order. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Now, if there was only 1 contact here, it'll actually default and it'll drop the contact in for you. But because it had 2, you'd have to pick it. But in this case, you didn't need to pick a separate contact because I had a good email here. And that notification successfully went out. So if you take anything away from what I'm doing today, the ordering address email needs to be good. The ordering address email.
And shameless plug for a communication that went out last week to all of our buying community about this particular topic. And it was to inform you about how we notify our suppliers and how they can go in and access this information. As a extension of that, we had the transition newsroom where we were parking communications, but we do have another section of our website where we can utilize to put some of these communications that are allowed to be externally facing, so that they can be accessible. But if you didn't get that message, check your spam. And it was something that we did push out to everybody.
So while I'm here, the other thing you can do to clean up your screens, I know you guys are asking about screens. Number 1 is zooming. Number 2, I think everybody has the ability to do this. You can X out those messages at the top. This area over here, you can also knock that and make it smaller. So that gives you a chance to, get your screen nicer depending on the size of your monitor. So you can do some messing around, with the screen. I like to have this open. I forget what these mean and I get confused. So I like to have the words out, but you don't have to have the words out. You can shrink it and you just get icons, emojis, whatever term we're using today. I do want to bring up another order. So I'm going to switch. Well, wait, let me jump into the requisition real quick. So anytime you pull up an order, the rec is also linked. So I can click on that rec. That drives me into the requisition. Now I'm in the requisition. Notice there's an order tab. So that could get me back to the order. Back to the requisition here. These messages, boy, they get after you. I can knock those out real quick. So now I'm on the requisition. And if I come into here, I can go to the line item of the rec if I want to. And then notice on the supplier area, there's that link again, and I can click that, and that drives me into the supplier account as well. So that pulled up the supplier information as well. The other area to get to the supplier to figure out what condition they're in is most of you or all of you with rec should also be able to find suppliers here in the suppliers and then browse. Okay, so suppliers browse. But that link or suppliers browse, same link, same area, same supplier information. And what you see, as Kim mentioned, is what the supplier sees. And we'll get into that in a second because a little bit later on down in my notes, I am actually going to go in and do some supplier stuff. So
great, because one of the things is related to P-card. There's been a couple questions about how can they see the P-card information and where is it displayed on the orders.
We will look at that.
So there you go, guys. I'm just trying
to we will look at that. We will look at that. So let me go back to browse orders because I did want to bring up one here, and bear with me while I type. Whoops. 669. I believe this is the right one here. 041669115. 04166. There we go. Just wanted to show you this. This is a confirming order. The difference, go into here real quick, show you a couple areas. Number 1, confirming orders. They got this is the order, has a little checkbox, says internal order. Probably side note, since Lisa's on the call, why didn't that say confirming order instead of internal? But if I go to the requisition view And boy, I was just picking on JMU, I guess, because this is another JMU order. You guys did a lot of ordering yesterday because I pulled orders that are recent. So good for JMU. You'll notice the type on this requisition is confirming. All right, is confirming. But why did I want to go to a confirming order? Confirming orders do not send notices. Okay, confirming orders do not send notices. And I'm actually going to shift into a supplier when we go over to UAT, and I'll show you how the suppliers would bring up a confirming order and how all that works. And let me make sure I do that. And guys, if I forget to do that, just drive me to it. Kim's doing a nice job of keeping me on the rails here. But again, I wanted to show you that. And so the difference on the one we just looked at, history of PO sent, is blank. There's nothing there because it's a confirming order. I did not send, again, a notice. A notice, that's an email. The order is in the supplier's account. If I go to workflow, this one, and nothing in the mail history there for that guy either. So again, it's a confirming order. As long as it gets to ordered status, you're good. You're entering it from a confirm. Oh, and actually, this is a great thing to look at. So it does a little check, right? Once that rec was approved and it's confirming, it says, what do we got here? And it goes down and it does an integration check. And then it says, is it internal? Is it a confirming? In this case, it's yes, and it stays as an internal order. And it doesn't do any of this notifying, which is over here. All right, it doesn't do any of the notifying. So again, it's just a confirming order. And you're looking to make sure it gets into ordered status, goes out the, and the order goes out the door. Again, no notification for confirming. Now I want to show you kind of something similar here. I'm going to go back to browse orders. I could have searched from here as well, just as an FYI, but I'm going to do it here because now I've already typed PO and I don't have to type PO again. Oh, and there's something else I wanted to show you on the supplier. So this order right here, hey, I'm finally switching agencies. There you go. Finally getting somebody else. So this is Virginia Western Community College. Amy Balzer cut this order. And this is to a state entered vendor, a state entered vendor. So you're saying, well, Shane, how do I know that? Well, one of the things I'll show you in a minute, I'll do a shift over to UAT because I want to show you during line creation how you can figure that out. But the other way you can figure out if it's a state entered vendor is again the link. And it's going to bring up the supplier. And if you go to the company information tab, state entered. This information is also available when you select the supplier, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But I am going to get out of production for that. Make sure, and this is a reminder, actually, to everyone. Just throw up a reminder. Please, when you're in production with this beautiful blue background, that we're not doing test transactions in our production environment. Depending on who you are, where you are, you should or can ask for access to the training environment. That is probably the best area to do that, is the training environment. And then some of you have access to UAT. Again, you know who you are, but in the grand scheme of things, please, no test transactions in the production environment. That can be troublesome. But again, figuring out that it's a state entered supplier. Now, again, with the state entered supplier, in this case, they probably didn't have any emails or anything set up. And so no notifications go out to a state entered supplier. Here on our workflow, our mail history, nothing going out there. And I want to shift over on a state entered supplier to the rec. So I'm shifting to the requisition on this state entered supplier. And the reason why there's no notices going out, because it is state entered, they don't have ownership of the account. It was entered by somebody here on the government side. So I am in the requisition and I wanted to show you the workflow. Ooh, go down just a little bit. That print PO box, that print PO will fire for state entered and for non-registered suppliers. Again, notices are not going out in that case. It is your responsibility for a non-registered or ad hoc or state entered supplier to grab that PO and get a copy to them. Now, one of the areas you can do that is in this other actions. You can do a print to PDF or print to Word on the purchase order. Okay, right here. There you go. You guys won't have that option, but you will have these two options here to print. But again, that is for a state entered supplier. All right. So now I'm going to shift gears and we're going to go into UAT, and I want to do some more supplier stuff with you guys, but I'm going to do that in UAT. So let me jump out of here. I'm just going to.
And while Shane is shifting gears, you guys are full of fantastic questions. Some of them are very specific to your experiences, what's happening with your day-to-day activities and in your job. Those types of questions are best answered through submitting the buyer assistance form so that they can be routed to the appropriate hypercare team and we can give you that one-on-one support. So definitely keep that in mind. And that is some of the answers that you're getting, seeing as we're going through some of the Q&A that's popping over. In general, we're trying to provide a great demo for some of the things that maybe you haven't seen or you haven't been able to get into the weeds about. And we love the questions. So try to hold those and see if there's something that we'll address. And again, if it's specific to your own experiences, you need that one-on-one support, use the buyer assistance form, and we're going to make sure to throw that in the chat.
So Kim, while I'm here,
yes,
for the buyer assistance form, you can see the EVA homepage, right?
Yes.
Okay. eva.virginia.gov, get help, click there, buyer assistance request form, click here, boom. There you go.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw that in the chat for everybody so that we can very quickly get over to that if anybody is needing to complete it. And that way we can make sure, again, that it gets routed to the appropriate hypercare team.
So I've switched to UAT and look at the color. Oh, it's different. Wanted to show you guys that for those of you that do have access to the UAT environment, or you may be in there testing or whatever is going on. We did make a color switch, and that helps us make sure we're in the right environment. If you see that pretty dark blue, you know you're in production. If it switches over to green, you know you're in UAT. You can also see up here in the URL, you'll see UAT is kind of baked into that web address there as well. And that helps us for that. But I wanted to do real quick just to dig into some more supplier stuff, and I can move around and create recs and do things in UAT. So let's do that real quick. So I'm just going to create a rec. Bear with me while I key in some data. Hit save. That pulls in my information there. I'm going to go down, add a line item. Let's say, just for kicks and grins today, right? Holiday cookies. 1,000. All right. Oh, let's put a price in. Okay. So just some more stuff around supplier, particularly supplier status. This has been a challenge. So we know we come to here where we're keying in a line and we're going to do we can do a quick type ahead search for supplier. So you'll notice that now the supplier status is there. Look at that. See, active supplier. So I know that as I'm typing and doing that type ahead, if my supplier is active or not. Oh boy, lots of active suppliers here. Oh, there we go. There's one. So code blue here is in discontinued status. So I know that I can't use this version of code blue, but there is one here. I don't know why this one's discontinued. They look really close, same address, but boy, that's an active one. So I don't want to pick this one. For whatever reason, maybe he was doing some cleanup. They did an update, but just, letting you guys see that, the actual supplier status as you're doing your search. One of the reasons we pulled in the supplier statuses is we do have some other statuses, but besides discontinued, like non-payment, meaning the supplier hasn't paid their fees, bad address, meaning we've been trying to reach out to the supplier, through the billing process, and we're getting return mail for them. In our old environment, we would put suppliers into these discontinued statuses and you wouldn't be able to see them. So then you try to enter them as a state entered vendor and we'd be like, well, you have a duplicate. So we're trying to make the statuses more visible to you guys. But when we launched back in November, they weren't very clear on the quick search about the status. So we were able to pull that in for you guys. So you can, make sure you pick the supplier, gives you a little address here, and that you're picking the active supplier. The other way to do that, to get a little bit more detail, is on any of these drop downs, you get a kind of an initial look. You can start doing type ahead. One of my favorite companies, they're Blue Ridge Fence and Window, Mount Sydney, Virginia. So I know I want to buy from Blue Ridge Fence and Window. I type Blue Ridge Fence, they come up, they're active. There's no other choices. I click them, they go on my requisition, right? But if I was having a struggle, and notice when I typed blue, I was getting all sorts of returns, right? When I typed blue, all sorts of things coming back there when you use the word blue. Maybe I needed to do a deeper search, see more details about the supplier. You can hit this see all. And Kim, did that come up, the see all?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just worried about my pop-ups now, making sure you guys can see them. And that gives me even more information about the supplier, right? I'll go into these in a minute, but that's the new code for the new environment. You get the account type, self-state, the supplier name, the doing business as name, which is sometimes important. We have a lot of locations and we can't tell the difference between the locations. I can come in and see the doing business as name, and maybe it'll tell me an office, or something specific. The status, websites, if they have them. Oh, come in. Uh-oh. My scroller kind of locked up on me there. All right, there we go. And for those of you from a security perspective, you can see tax IDs and social security numbers. Remember, you're securely logged in. You are responsible for protecting that data. And then you can do some searching as well based on commodities, keywords, things like that to do your search. So I could do the same search here. Oops, got to type it right. And so I can do a search. It'll pull back Blue Ridge Fence. And I can see that they're self-registered, they're active, and I can get their tax ID information real quick. But again, much like the screen I was on with the link, I can click. So, hey, before I even select the supplier and put it onto my rec, if I'm doing my due diligence, I can click on the supplier. I can click on either one, either the here or here. So I'll click on that supplier. And what does that pull up? Hey, the supplier profile. Look at that. So I can come in here, see that they're self-registered, get any other information about them I need to, check their contacts. In this case, they have 2. And then also go to their addresses. There's their ordering address. And I see that they have an email. They have brfencewindow@gmail.com. So I'm feeling pretty good if I place an order with the supplier, that I've got a valid email in there. I could pick a contact if I wanted to. Let me show you that. Close. Let me go ahead and select the supplier, pull them down. And if I wanted to, now Charlie came in because he had accepted the MOA. Oop, that other account must not be active. See, I've only got one there. Only got one to choose from. So even though he had 2 contacts, that other one didn't look like it was active, which is fine, Charlie comes in as the default on that. So just wanted to do some additional supplier looking around there. All right. So I hope that was valuable from a requisition perspective. You will also notice in some other areas with searches, if I'm coming in, I'm in browse rec. Oh, that's not one of the spots. Sorry, browse orders. Here we go. So I'm in browse orders. Sorry, a rec may not have a supplier on it yet, but purchase orders certainly do. So in PO supplier, if I'm searching purchase orders and I'm looking for a supplier, hit the drop down, you'll notice it's there as well. That active supplier is there. And then I can also continue to do see all from here. So when we made that update, not only when you're creating a requisition and adding line items, you also get that look there as well. So, all right, so that's orders. What I wanted to do now is switch and talk about, and I know not all of you use this, but I did want to switch and talk about receiving. So let me pull up, I have an order I wanted to specifically search for. Bear with me. All right, so let me bring this up. There we go. Sure, keep that in 319-2259. That's the one. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this order up. Oh, actually, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back because I want to talk about some things here and some options. So first, just bringing up my order, talking a little bit about received by amount and quantity, talking about draft receipts. Saving to pull in lines. But the good news thing I want to share with you is our quick reference guide on receiving, because boy, we've got, for those of you that use receiving, we've got a lot of questions about this. I'll be quite honest with you. There has certainly been some issues overall with receiving that we're working very hard to fix. We appreciate all you guys reaching out, but the quick reference guide was updated. So if I go back to the EVA homepage, and I go, actually, let me just do this. It's kind of, you can go to I Buy for Virginia, EVA buyer training, and then I'm pretty sure it's in the resources. There it is right there. So again, let me go through that. Take you back to EVA Home. So from the homepage, I Buy for Virginia, training, and then resources. If you scroll down, well, actually, you don't even need to scroll down, depending on your monitor. Right here, receive and return. That quick reference guide was updated on December 12th. Big thanks to a very large team that supports requisition orders and receiving here at DPS. I can't name all of you because it's literally like 20 people. And but again, a big thanks to Sarah Lewis, who gathered some notes, had that team review these notes, and got that receiving guide updated for you. So hopefully that will help. That quick reference guide will help you guys. So back to actually receiving this order. Off the browse orders page, just a couple things. In this case, I've got a PO. The order value was $7.99 and 90 cents. I've already done some receiving. So some receiving's been done. $399.95 have been received. I could create another delivery really quickly by just clicking on this little truck and hitting add delivery to this order. That's a very quick way to do this. You don't see the truck, notice it's canceled. Truck when it's canceled. And then if receiving's been fully completed, 3,500 ordered, 3,500 received, you're in final delivery. You're in final delivery. All right. So it's been fully received. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go into this PO and create a return, which you could absolutely do. But, just some quick hit things from the browse order screen that may help with your receiving. So scroll back up. So I could click the little truck, which I'll do. And we could add a receipt to this order. Now, when this first comes up, I've got a name and it by default says delivery 12/13/2022, but you can, you can put in whatever you want. Maybe it wasn't a delivery. Maybe you're just, change it. I'll call it receiving demo. You can put a reference ID in. There's a supplier that's given us this, the delivery date. You can change that. You can backdate it if you need to. Pull in contract information if you need to. But since receiving had already been done, you'll notice back on 11/18, we had $399.95 received. So if I'm ready to do receiving on this, I simply click save. And that pulls in the line item. Now, this is the part, it's a little bit tricky. It pulls in by default everything else. It just automatically says, well, you had this much left. I'm going to pull it all in. So now if you scroll over here to your summary, you'll notice it equals up. It's saying, oh, good, you're going to complete this and equal it up. In order to do a partial receipt, click on the pencil, and I can go in and I can change that, right? I can change that. So and I've already started receiving by quantity here. So let's change that to 2. And I'm going to save and close. And that updates me to 2. You'll notice my summary updates, and it takes me up to 559 received, 799.90 ordered, and I could I'll go ahead and hit save just for kicks and grins. And then to commit this, to get it out of draft, you hit submit. And that submits the receipt. All right. And then it gives you this little review thing. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And then notice we get updated. I could go back to my browse orders. And there we are. Right. So I did partial receiving there. I'm going to go into the PO now. You can always get to all the copies of your receipts by going into the PO. You can also create a receipt from here or hitting the little truck on the main page. If you want to see all your receipts, you can click there and you'll notice those receipts are there as well. I will create another receipt here because remember, I still have some to do. I can create a receipt. You hit save to pull those items in. Now, I can from here, instead of doing receiving, I could create a return. All right. That takes me in here. It's saying, well, you've got everything. What are you returning? You hit save. That pulls the line items in again, and I could come in here and adjust and do a return. So, and it's a little bit confusing because it says quantity received. Let's say 1 was broken. I'm returning 1. I could save and close for that update. And then you simply hit. And then you do schedule return. It's like it gives you the opportunity to schedule it and then confirm that you sent it back or confirm that you had it picked up. Let's just say all that happened. And then from that point, it's a lot of steps on that return. Confirm it. And then I can save and close. And it did a return there, but let me go back to my browse orders. Should pull that one back up. And there you go. And then I do have, oh dear, a draft receipt, the dreaded draft receipt, right? So I returned one and I still have a draft receipt out there because I did that return off the receipt. So that is one area I know we're looking at because what this is doing is it looks like this has also been received. So the big thing here for this area, there's a new QRG. It works you through doing all this stuff. Receipts can be a little tricky. These draft receipts we know can be a little tricky. I know one of the asks is, please let us delete these draft receipts. You notice I don't even have the option to create a draft, to delete a draft receipt. That's one of the things that can be very, very annoying about this, the receipt process. But, that draft receipt is there for me. If I needed to continue my receiving, this would be the one, that I would go to. If it's totally bothering you, you can set that to 0 and it knocks. That's one of the little tricks I found, that draft receipt. You can set that to 0 and even though it's a draft receipt, it knocks out what you did, right? So you get a really good picture of what's actually happening to that order. I received on 11/29, I received today, I did a return of 1, and then that you can 0 out that draft receipt, but not deleting the line, right? Because what if I need to come in and complete receiving? I can come back at any point in time, edit this, and then update the receipt itself. So the other thing I wanted to show you, and I know that's a lot, but I think there's a lot of flexibility here, but you can get in trouble. You can just we've seen this a lot. Folks just keep hitting create receipt, and it just, it jams a billion receipts in there. What I want, if you take anything away from today, I want you to make sure when you're out in your purchase order view, go to your receipts tab, check and see what you've already got out there. Like in this case, oh my gosh, I've already got a draft. I don't need to create another one. I've got a draft. I can just go in there. I'll fix this one up. I can change the delivery date. I don't, it's not locked here. I can backdate this. If I come back in 2023, I can update this to January 3rd, 4th, of 2023. I can do all those things in this receipt.
And one of the questions is pretty great question, is, if the supplier has the ability to create an advanced shipping notice, which is basically the receipt draft, and how to treat that. And you would, if there's a draft that exists because they created it for you, then you would just use that to start your receipt.
Use it. Yeah, use it. So it's one, we don't think that's happening a lot, but it's always a good idea. And getting back here, let's go back to browse orders. Is there anything here in this? And remember, this isn't a perfect column. Remember, if I have a draft, this gets updated. Even with a draft, this gets updated. So if I see something here, there's another one, right? I see an amount here. Ooh, something's going on. It could be a draft. It could be a finalized receipt. Always good. Go under your purchase order. Open that purchase order up. Go to your receipts and see what you got. Because again, I don't think that's happening a ton where they're using that advanced shipping notice. But if they do, Kim is correct. You get one of these drafts here, right? One of these drafts would come in. So one other area I want to show you today, let me go back to browse orders real quick. I'll just grab one randomly here. That looks good. I'll just use that one. I'm going to go ahead. I don't see anything in this column that means there's no drafts. It likely means I'm good. There's nothing happening there. The order is ordered. I'm just going to very quickly create a receipt. I can confirm everything. Yep, this looks good. Hit save. That brings my line item in. Now, no receiving has been done. Now, once I've picked a method of receiving, that's what I'm going to get to in a minute, you're kind of stuck with that. So I'm going to go into the line item. It's one line item. We're buying widgets. I'm going to come here. Now you'll notice so it was 100 in quantity, but I don't want to do, I want to do it by US dollars. Look, when I shifted it, it shifted it to my price so I can receive by amount. Now, once you have started a path, once you've got an approved receipt in there, if you've done quantity, You can't shift to dollars. If you've done dollars, you can't shift to quantity. Now, unfortunately, when I switch to receive by amount, it doesn't update this header here. It still says quantity to receive. So that header is not very handy, but notice, I'm going to do it again. Switch to US dollars. If I switch to each, notice it switches to 100. My quantity was 100. If I switch to US dollars, it switches to US dollars. So I can adjust this. Let's say I'm going to receive 1,000. I can do save and close. So then I'm receiving 1,000. It updates my summary instead of showing, the quantity there. I've done 1,000 of 2,000, right? So I just shifted that to receive by dollars, and then I could submit that receipt. That receipt's been submitted. And then of course, at that point, once I got a receipt, I could do a return. So, oh no, it wasn't 1,000, I could get 500 back, right? So those are some of the things, that you can do. And I wanted to kind of cover from a receiving perspective. I hope that was helpful. The big thing, if you take anything away from this, the quick reference guide has been updated. It is in the training area. I buy for Virginia, buyer training, resources, it's there. If you forget where that is, rewatch this video, hopefully, or reach out to us and we will point you to that quick reference guide. We hope that's helpful. Another area I wanted to get into this morning, the messaging feature. I'm going to do a search. I'm going to browse a rec here. Bear with me. Q13063. I'm just pulling up a requisition. It's one of mine. I'm doing some fencing. It's still in progress. Pull up this rec. There's still, I could withdraw it. I could reject it. All sorts of fun stuff here that I can do with this. I wanted to show you guys, I know we've got these, and actually here, talking about reformatting the screen. Let me get this where it fits a little better, so you guys can see it. So I've got this requisition here. There's still some work being done on it. We have a messaging feature that isn't attached to comments, right? Because we've got all these different areas where we can do comments, internal comments, but it's really only one field. This messaging feature, send this. I will send this to Lisa. And I can add a message. Lisa, need you to look at this rec. And I can send her that. I could also send Lisa an attachment. Let's do whatever that is. I could send her an attachment. Oh, gotta add a message. Oop. There we go. So that did sent some messages that direction to Lisa, and they are attached to this requisition, which is really cool. Attached to this requisition, which is great. So if I go back out, you can see the messages that I've sent going back and forth, right? So I can see the history that I said, see attached. And I said, Lisa, I need you to look at this rec. And look, Lisa wrote me back and said, thanks for the attachment. But you'll notice my messages, they are associated with the requisition. See that? So then from this, I can click on that and it takes me back into the rec. And then those messages are still there on the requisition itself, right? The ones that I put to her. So they're attached to that transaction. So just something real quick I wanted to show you guys. If you need to have a discussion with somebody in your organization about a particular, and it's more than requisitions, you can do it on pretty much any transaction. You can do that. And then on the end user side, Lisa must have just wrote me back immediately, but if she went into the requisition that I referenced, she could have done the messaging within that requisition as well. And then it associates these comments with the requisition. So that is a big key. If you're doing the conversation and you want it to be attached to the requisition, drive into the requisition and make sure those comments are happening within the transaction itself. And then that'll associate those comments, those attachments with that transaction. So just something else I wanted to show you guys today. Shifting gears here real quick. And I'm sorry, we are running a little bit longer on time, and I know there's a lot of
and
questions.
we'll just add one thing to the messaging. No, those are not public messages.
No, they're not public messages. Thank you, Kim.
Internal only.
They're absolutely not public messages.
Part of your requisition PO record.
Yep. I want to shift into sourcing real quick for those of you that are maybe quick quote users or do some sort of sourcing. I have one prepped out here. It's my little quick quote. I'm going to drive into it. Some changes with quick quote. You start a project first and you key in some information about the overall project. And then you go down here to actually prepare the quick quote. Some differences in quick quote from what we had before. Make sure you get those lines keyed in. We do not at this point in time, you've got to attach the terms and conditions. You got to do some of that stuff on your own. So make sure you're attaching terms, make sure you're doing that. To get this field to pop up, you would come down to prepare RFX, get all this information, required information set up, and then you're hitting save. Save is a big button in the new EVA environment. And then that opens up these tabs to allow you. I've got 2 line items here. Ooh, look at me, keg beer and bourbon. If you've been around me, I'm always doing that in test. And then just making sure you have those documents in there. I'm not going to show you this necessarily, but another nuance to quick quote in that when you do the award for a quick quote, you're actually creating a contract. You're awarding and it does create a contract, and then you're cutting the PO against that contract. Again, a lot of that is covered in our training materials, and just want to make sure you're aware of that. And then kind of from a finishing up thing, another nuance to sourcing is not only do you need to hit when you're ready, if I want to publicly post this, not only do you need to hit submit, but you need to make sure after you hit submit, you are not done. That kind of commits the record, and you want to hit send. And send is going to publicly post it. So just kind of a 2-step thing there. You see that green option was still there for me to go ahead and send. And then you can kind of look through your vendors. And one last step from there. And it says, do you really want to notify these suppliers? And you go, yes. Do you want to open bidding at the same time? You go, yes. So lots of confirmation for those of you that use sourcing, even for quick quotes, to allow you to get this out on the street. And then once I've done that, there's all my notified suppliers there. All right. So just some interesting stuff that and again, I'm kind of breezing through these. I wanted to hit on these really quick. And then one last thing, and we will save blanket purchase orders for next time because I do want to try to take a few of your questions, is subcontractor payment reporting. Just a couple things before I drive into that. Number one, I'm going to log in as a supplier. And remember, I am in UAT. I've got I don't have these powers in production, but I do have magical powers in UAT. I am now in a supplier account, and let me talk about these notes real quick. For those of you that are contract administrators, or you have created contracts, there is a ability, if you had subs on your contracts, and you may or may not have, there is the ability for suppliers to submit subcontract, your prime vendor, your prime supplier, to submit subcontract payment reports on those contracts. A job was run. That's how right now this is set up in the new EVA platform, where notifications went out to all prime vendors on active contracts, notifying them that they could submit a subcontractor payment report. That went out on December 8th. So we got a lot of suppliers that maybe had never done this before, got a notice to do that. So the one thing is, if your suppliers, and you do have a contract there where subcontract payment reporting is required, we encourage you to have your suppliers go ahead and submit their subcontractor payment report. For all non-active contracts, the term has expired, or contracts that are not in EVA, right now, I don't have any other option for you. You're going to have to do that reporting if it's necessary outside of EVA. Now, another thing we did is, if you had a lot of contracts where you were the contract administrator, your to-do list got filled up with all these notices about subcontractor reporting. We did clean those up over the weekend. So those should have been cleaned up. They should be out of your to-do list. And then for those of you with contracts outside of EVA, or maybe you've got a contract that's expired, but the supplier still owes you a subcontractor payment report as part of your contract closeout, there will be a fix coming in January to remove the requirement that there must be an active contract in EVA. So you can have a supplier come in to their account, and I'm going to show you that in just a second, and submit a subcontractor payment report, and they can reference the contract. It'll be way more freeform, and those notices won't go out either. So you guys as contract administrators will be required to make sure that your suppliers are coming in and doing that. Just real quick, where that's done, your supplier goes to contract. And again, I am in as a supplier. They go to subcontractor reports. They'll either have a create report button. I have a draft one out here for December. They click on that. They can click on their pencil, or there'll be a create button. And then they can come in and, I did a fence repair thing. This is my favorite little vendor, Blue Ridge Fence and Window. For all your fence and window needs in the Shenandoah Valley, reach out and give them a call. They may or may not be family. Big smile from me on that one. But you can go in here, do the report, and submit the report, and there's reference things. I don't want to get into that, but it's not difficult for your suppliers to do that. It'll be much easier in January once we put the fix in, where it won't have to be tied. This reporting will not have to be tied to an active contract. The supplier will be able to reference a contract number, and then that data gets stored in the data warehouse, and you can report on it. So some really handy stuff there. And last but not least, and again, I'm sorry I went so long with my demoing and didn't leave a ton of time for questions, but I hope you saw some value in all the demoing I did. We've had some questions about, suppliers on their side getting orders, right? So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to return again to the main supplier screen, and they got all sorts of cool stuff in here. They've got an active order section where they can click here and get right to their orders. This one has 19. They've actually got 2 contracts, and they've done 3 subcontractor reports. But in order to go in, they can do acknowledge orders or hit their active order box. So go in this way, acknowledge orders. And you'll notice their first view is pre-sorted for just regular purchases. So these are all the regular purchases that came over. Non-confirming, to be clear, non-confirming. In order to see confirming orders, I can knock out that. I can hit confirming and do a search. And then you'll notice the type switches to confirming order. So it is not the default view for a supplier, and I can hit reset. Maybe did that a little quick. So again, if a supplier needs to see their confirming orders, they need to update their filter. They can knock out purchase, hit confirming. You could bring both in if you want. See, I can do 2. See that? And I get confirmings and purchases in the same list. Or I can knock out purchases, regular purchases, excuse me, and just see confirming. And at any point in time, the supplier can reset and it goes back to the default, which is standard purchase in ordered status. I can also knock this out. And if there were any canceled orders, oh, and I don't have any. Let's see if there were any canceled confirming. No, so this supplier doesn't have any canceled orders, but again, they get a copy of the cancellation as well. So there are some sorting options. Again, the big key, if you're talking to a supplier, is their default view is they're in ordered status and their regular purchases. All right, so I wanted to show you guys that. And that really ends our demonstration. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to take us back to this view. Again, sorry I ran so long. It only really leaves 11 minutes for questions, but I hope everything was very valuable, what we went over today. Again, just in summary, we looked at order delivery for self-registered, state-entered, and non-registered vendors. Remember that PO print, and for state-entered and non-registered vendors, you need to do the order delivery. Also know that if there's a problem with the order delivery, you'll get a notice that there was an issue. We looked at supplier status, where you can see if they're active, non-active, state, self, all that fun stuff. Looked at the UAT portal colors. We went over receiving returns. Be careful in there. Don't click create receipt 50 times. Just be careful. The system's trying to help you. But again, if you're struggling with that, there is an updated quick reference guide that's available. We looked at the messaging feature. You can do that for all transactions. If you want the message to be associated to the transaction, do it within the transaction. We looked really quickly at Quick Quote, just the big key there. You got to get your terms attached. You are awarding a contract and issuing the PO against the contract, right, when you do that. But there's a quick reference guide for that as well. And remember, for all sourcing, you got to submit it, and then you got to go through all those confirmations to get it publicly posted. Make sure you're doing that. And then last but not least, we jumped into a supplier account. We went over subcontractor payment reporting for a prime supplier. And then we took a look at your acknowledged orders section. So I know that was a lot.
And it was just one request that came over, which was the P card, how to access that P card information. So for the supplier,
let me do that.
Yeah, I was going to say
yes. Let me share.
Thank you.
So I'm back sharing again. Yep. I've got a PCO out here.
Yep, you've got a PCO, a couple, like, yep, 10 down.
So
and that's how you can tell, because that's been a question.
Well, that's how you can tell it is a PCO, but then
that's
to
right.
get it,
purchase card order.
They click on the order and they come here. And again, this is UAT. So what you're about to see is not, it may be blocked out, but they click this button. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. And then
there it is.
And this is, again, that's a bogus number. This is a test number, this is a test environment, but that's how they do it. So again, in their acknowledge orders, if it says PCO, not PO, PCO, the P card is attached. They click, they get a view of the order. Shrink this down, get a nice view of that order there with all my line items. In the delivery and payment, click on P card details, and then the P card with the expiration number is there.
And one of the great features for searching for our suppliers and in your browse orders, browse requisitions, is that advanced filter, that little funnel that's on the left side. There are so many cool advanced features that you can set: dates, requisitioner name, statuses, and things, so that you can make sure that you're filtering to the right information.
So I don't know if we, in the 7 minutes we have, if we want to take any additional questions or just look at these and post them publicly and give people a response.
Yeah, so actually we've been going through, or I've been going through, and Barb, I know it's jumped in also,
Thank you guys.
A lot of suggestions. So we're just making a note. Hey, great suggestion. We're going to mark that as a future consideration.
And
for
again,
those of,
enhancements. We really, I started with it, but it's good to wrap up with that. We love it that you guys are going down the enhancement path, because that means you guys are getting into the system and you're saying, if you did this, you'd make my life and probably other people's lives better. But I just do want to let you know that from an enhancement perspective, you might see a couple things going in that you considering enhancements. But you know, we're still really in that hypercare mode, really trying to deal with emergencies and things that are very blocking, where there's not good workarounds for folks. But again, appreciate all the enhancements.
So one of the hot button comments, I kept seeing the word print. I'm going to start singing in a minute. And that is definitely a desire based on how we've all done things historically, right? Is being able to print. And we understand that there's absolutely some requirements internally that you might have for three-way matching and getting things, you know, paid and an invoice and all that good stuff. So are there any comments in general that we'd like to make about printing, printing of recs?
I know Lisa's shaking her head. I know there's a lot of work on her end being done to pull all the requests together into one master ticket and get that updated. Some of the tricks I showed you on the screen could be helpful, but it gets weird with the framing. But I know the purchase order itself, you know, where you go in and you can do the PDF or the Word version. Lisa is pulling a lot of those together in a consolidated work on that. I also saw a comment. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to add to that. I also saw a comment about there's a lot of unanswered questions. We will download the questions. Kim does this for us. We will go through those questions. We will answer them, and Kim will post them for you guys, and she will let you know when they're posted.
Yep. So one of the great questions, and I know you touched on it, is when will there be training sessions available again, specifically for sourcing and contracting? So I know you touched on that at the beginning when we started. And January.
The virtual instructor-led training stuff will be cranking back up in January.
That's right.
Sorry, Sarah Lewis said not until February.
Not
until February.
Yep. Not until February.
So it'll be cranking back up in February. And again, that's my own fault for saying January. We are still, everybody's hyper caring.
And we want to encourage people to go out and use the resources that have already been created, the training assets that are available, and the quick reference guides. And as we make changes, we are making changes to those guides the best we can. If for some reason you notice something and you have a question, that's where that buyer assistance form is fantastic, so that it can get routed to the correct hypercare team. We're doing our best to just get to those as quickly and efficiently as possible, and make sure that, you know, we are getting, not just identifying a question, but if there's a specific issue that shows up, then we want to research it and make sure if something needs to be fixed. So a lot of you have gotten that response today, is like, that's a great question for our hypercare team. Please submit the form. So I'm probably flooding our teams, but that's the process that we want you to follow. We don't want you to suffer in silence. And if enough of you have the same question, then that becomes something that we need to address. And then that helps bubble the issue, the question, the enhancement, whatever it might be, to the top, right?
Yep. I would also say that I think most of the account executives probably still have the auto response on their email that we are supporting EVA, and it may take a while to get back to you and that kind of thing, but certainly don't hesitate to reach out to us and on the policy team either, because we are looking at email. We are looking at the things that you guys are sending us when you need additional assistance. I would encourage everyone, as you are asking about how to print something, remember that this is a really state-of-the-art e-procurement system. Our legacy system was designed a long time ago when most of us were still using paper, and it took a lot of teeth pulling to get a lot of folks to start using the platform. So we had to give you guys ways to print your documents in a way that looked right and made sense for your business process. Please think about that as you are trying to print these documents. You know, they're not really designed to be printed, so it takes a lot for that to happen sometimes. If you are printing them to provide the three-way match, two of the pieces of the three-way match to your accounting folks, and you are also using an electronic financial system, there are ways that we can help your IT folks to make the two systems talk to each other. Reach out to your account executive and talk about that and ask about that, because we have the tools to help help that happen for you as well.
And in cases where these questions are specific to our hypercare teams, we're going to make sure that our hypercare leads for our teams get the Q&A and the chat questions. You guys have been super engaged, and our success is based off of your feedback and use of the system and helping us get it, right. So we'll make sure that we follow up and get some follow up. If there's anything specific, again, that you have, use that buyer assistance form and just try to scroll through. One of the other things that I might go ahead and get you to verbally acknowledge, and then we'll have to wrap up for today, is we've had a lot of people ask about the to-do list, and I'm seeing other people's stuff in my to-do list. So Lisa.
Hi. So that is something that we're researching right now. One of the main things that I just want to clarify for people too is the draft receipts. At one point in time, if your organization did central receiving, then everybody's stuff was showing up in your box. Where CGI, our partners, are actively working, we've stopped any new ones from coming in, but we're looking at making sure any of the old ones get out as well as just looking at some business case scenarios. So if you have something other than draft receipts that's in your box that you shouldn't be, then that would be something good to escalate to the hypercare. But I promise you, it is something as far as draft receipts in your to-do list. We are actively looking into that. We are actively working on that, and hope to have a solution for everyone in the coming sooner rather than later. How about that? Kim, do we have 2 seconds? And I don't know if you showed this at the beginning, but the system enhancements on the EVA homepage.
Yep, and I can go ahead and share.
Can we just show people like where you can?
Yeah, no, we show them. Go.
Yep, I'm going to do that, and then we will wrap it up. So what do we have? We have on the EVA website homepage at the bottom, publicly accessible, is the system enhancements. And that is so you will know what fixes we've put in and what you can expect. So this is about November. And then you can see our upcoming schedule, because Lisa has linked that there. And it also lists the component and when it went into effect. So I want you to take a look at all that hard work we've done just in the first 30 days. And we will continue to work. And like Shane said, this is a project that will continue to evolve and change and shift as our needs do and the needs of our users. Anything else you want to add about that, Lisa?
No, I just wanted to kind of point that out too, so that way they could, if they have questions about what has come in, we'll update that every month.
And that is some place where you can quickly jump to it.
Hey, Kim, I know this is just for you, but while we're here, we have a lot of questions in the chat, I'm afraid, that did not make it into the Q&A. Is there a way to capture that?
I've copied them all over.
You've got them. Okay, thank you.
You guys didn't have to do that. And the reason is because the beauty of this technology is that it captures everything.
Okay.
So I'll be able to download
Okay.
yeah, it does. It captures everything. So we'll get all the Q and all the A with the Q and the Q and the A, and we will have all of that as well as all of the chat. So I guess you guys didn't know that everything you say in your chat is being recorded. You're state workers, you should be used to this, right? All right, guys. Thank you so much. We've run over by a couple of minutes. Really appreciate the participation and the interaction, and sticking with all of this, getting going and going in the right direction. It's again a system that was 20 plus years in the making. So this is exciting time. We're continuing to work diligently, reach out through the buyer assistance form when it makes sense, reach out to your account executive, reach out to your internal resources, depending on how your entity is set up. We will look forward to setting up another buyer user group in January to kick off and start 2023. And until then, I will wish you all the best. Happy holidays and enjoy what's left of 2022. Thanks guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.